Good afternoon, family. It is March 15th, 2022, and that means it is day 500 of my 3-year challenge to lose 300 pounds. If you're new here, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of achieving a healthy weight. If you do enjoy my video, make sure that you click the thumbs up. Also, click on the subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll get alerted when I go live. If you'd like to participate in on the discussions with me, you can join me on my live streams at 4 p.m. Central Time on weekdays. Or if you want to get in touch with me outside of the live streams, you can consider joining our Discord. The link for that is down in the description below. Also down in the description below, I have a link to a Pinterest board. What that board is the Pinterest board is a place for you guys to see what kind of meals that we're eating. Carrie gets on there and she posts a lot of the recipes that our family enjoys with our whole food plant-based diet. Like I said, today is day 500. I cannot believe I've been doing this for 500 days. That's like a year and a half now. Not quite a year and a half. I still have, I think it's 40 some days until I get to the year and a half mark. So I'm pretty excited about how things are going so far. I started at 519.8 pounds and currently I'm at 312.4. If anybody has any questions they want to ask me, go ahead and ask them down in the chat below. Or if you're not watching this live, feel free to ask me questions. I try to respond to anybody who asks me questions on there. So I'm going to get started here. I screwed up and did not have my intro screen up. And so I don't know how to transition. Maybe if I just spin around one time. I hope everybody had a great evening. It was a very lonely evening for me. Carrie and the kids are out of town still. So I just kind of hung out at the house with me and the dogs. So not a whole lot of activity going on yesterday. I did get a workout though, because I decided to grab we have a dog that is actually her. I'll share a photo with you guys because I probably haven't shown her on here, but we got a dog 1 year ago today, which is kind of crazy that it ended up being exactly a year ago. And now today's my day 500, but let me see if I can pull up a photo of our monster of a puppy on the screen here. So if I hit the right buttons, let me see if I hit the right button. It'll tell. So this is our puppy dog here. I hit the wrong button. I'm going to figure this out. I'm usually a lot better at this. So there is our puppy dog. We have had her for a year now. So she is just over a year old. And she is a monster. I'm going to take her to the vet here in the next month or so to get some shots, and I will find out what she weighs, but she's probably heavier than my kids are at this point. So I ended up spending the night just bathing that monster of a dog there. As you can see, she's not little. She was little when we got her. I don't have a picture of that handy, but I should have. I didn't plan on showing you that photo, so that's I don't have the photo of her as a puppy. Maybe I'll pull that up some other time if somebody requests it. So really just hung out at home last night. Carrie had done me a huge favor and made a bunch of food before she left. Kind of turned into a little bit of a burden for me because I'm eating through all of it and I'm gaining weight. But last night I finished off the tray that she had left of the shepherd's pie. I don't know if she has shared that on the Discord or on the Pinterest board or not, but I absolutely love the shepherd's pie she made. I showed a photo of it on yesterday's stream. It's just got lots of mushrooms and green peas and onions, and it was there's a sauce that Carrie had made that is supposed to mimic like a sour cream sauce. I mixed that with it, and really one of the better things that I've had in a while. I really enjoyed it for kind of a new menu thing. And she didn't even have all the ingredients right. That's kind of a running joke at our house, is that every recipe is one ingredient away from being the way it was supposed to be, because we're always short one ingredient, or we don't have enough of something, or we're subbing in things to make it fit our diet. Um, but yeah, so that's really what I did last night, was just kind of hanging out at the house, gave the dog a bath, and then kind of just relaxed and watched a little bit of television. If you're into watching violent TV shows, the show Reacher on Amazon is a good show. I really liked it, but there's a lot of violence in that. Not There's a lot of drama and other stuff too, but I kind of binge watched the seasons of that over the season of that over the last 2 days, because it was something that I had been wanting to watch, just hadn't taken the time to follow through and watch it. Um, and then this morning I just had Ezekiel bread with nut butter. I did have a question on one of my videos here the other day. Let me see if I can actually get to the question so I can read it out well. Let's see. Dare Jones had asked me, how did I find it easy to eat this diet and still overeat without the salt, sugar, and the fat? And kind of what I explained to them in my response was that when I first switched over to this diet, I didn't necessarily overeat. And it was weird because the times I did overeat, I thought I was going to screw my diet up. And then I weighed in the next day and I was lighter uh, than I expected to be, or lighter than I was the day prior. But I kind of, for me, what worked out really well was to just try to keep it as simple as possible. When I was eating at work, I would have just corn, like canned corn, low sodium or no salt added corn. I would get pineapple and its own juice. I would have Lara bars, but I would make sure that I kind of was very selective on the Lara bars that I picked. And I ate a lot of the Ezekiel bread with the Crazy Richards peanut butter. I still eat that a lot. I mean, it's in the last 2 days, I've probably eaten an entire loaf of that because it's just a really easy way to get a big chunk of food. And I drink a lot of water with that. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but it is very dry to have that Ezekiel bread. It's the low sodium Ezekiel bread and then the Crazy Richards nut butter. Um, so I almost always have a big glass of water that I'm drinking with that, and that helps fill my stomach. And then the other kind of trick I used, uh, I have used a lot to fill my stomach and not feel guilty, is having shredded wheat with some raisins and then some unsweetened soy milk. Again, it's just what I've been using to kind of just get that volume of food that I've been wanting. And then now that we've been doing this for the 500 days, or we've been doing this diet for 15 months, I am much more open to trying things. I talked about it with Carrie before, and every time she says, "Hey, we're having salad tonight," there's like in this, I don't know, in the back of my head, there's this voice that's just like, "Oh man, salad? Like that sucks. Salad's not a dinner." But then I get home and I get this big bowl of salad in front of me, and I always love how it tastes. And it's still, just that mentality from my old mindsets about having salad that I have let creep in, I guess. And like I said, every time I sit down and eat a salad, it's better than the last time I sat down and had a salad. And then also times where Carrie's even switched up the dressing, which has made me kind of apprehensive. Like I really like this mustard dressing that she makes, and sometimes she'll make something different, and I'm worried that I'm not going to like it, but every time I enjoy it. There's so much flavor in these foods that I never was realizing. And they talk about it in the Pleasure Trap book a little bit, in that if you go from being in a dark room to walking out into a bright room, your eyes have to adjust to that bright room. And that time period, like you were in the dark room and you could see everything fine. You're not like, but a darker room, you could see just fine. And then you walk outside into the bright light, and then the sun or the lights hit your eyes and they dilate and everything adjusts and you're blinded for a second. But then after 30 seconds or so, you start to be able to see again. Uh, and you could walk back into that dark room. In the dark room, you might feel like you can't see anything because you didn't adapt to the changing in the lights. And that's kind of what the diet is that I've been eating this crap filled diet for 40 years. And then I switched over to a new diet. I was blind for a while. When I walked into the brightly lit room, or when I started doing this new diet, I was blind. I was disoriented. I didn't know how to eat. And so I just kind of reached for whatever I thought was going to get me through it. And then after I'd been on this diet for a few weeks, I'm sitting there eating meals that I was suffering through 2 weeks ago, and realizing that I really enjoyed the meals and that I wanted seconds. And it became much easier to eat that higher volume of food after doing it for a couple weeks. And, not eating as much food for a couple weeks helped me probably lose a couple more pounds. So that would kind of be the how I would respond to anybody that's trying to get on this diet and having a hard time with getting the volume in, is to try to find your own little kind of simple one ingredient tricks. I did eat a lot of bananas. There was a period of time that I would, when I was getting hungry or I felt like I wasn't getting enough to eat, when I went to go snack, I was grabbing a banana or grabbing an apple or grabbing a couple of oranges for a snack. And because we didn't have anything else in our house to tempt me, when I got hungry, the best looking snacks were bananas and apples and oranges. If we would have had bags of potato chips or ho-hos or Twinkies in the cupboard, then the best looking snacks wouldn't have been bananas and apples and oranges. So eliminating the temptations from your environment is a huge part of being able to succeed on this as well, because these manufacturers that make this food know that they don't have to satisfy your hunger. They just have to satisfy your cravings. Nobody in the US is going hungry. We have access to food all over the place. And so they just want you to buy their product over the competitor's product. And if they have to add 2 grams of sugar so you think it tastes better, then they're going to add the 2 grams of sugar so it tastes better. If they have to lie, or if they have to make deceptive uh labels and say, hey, look at this, it's low fat, well, low fat compared to what? I mean, if it's low fat compared to what the US recommendation for fat intake is, then that's kind of higher than what some doctors would even recommend. So it could still be higher than you're supposed to be getting, but because some standard says that this food should have X amount of fat, then you think it's low fat. Like low fat milk, like low fat milk is like 1% milk. Well, if they didn't take any fat out of the milk, it would only be 3% milk. So it's not like you're getting rid of a ton, you're getting rid of some calories, but it's still just the labeling that they are getting you with. They put low fat on there. You think that you're saving yourself by having the low fat milk, when in actuality, you're not doing yourself any favors having it at all. Because in comparison to drinking like an almond milk or a soy milk, there's not very much fat in those, what I understand. Um, so day 500, thinking about, I should do a recap here, guys. It has been a wild 500 days. In 2020, my health was getting to a point where knew I couldn't keep ignoring it. I I was over 500 pounds and I had this horrible swelling in my legs. I mean, my right ankle was nearly twice as big as it should have been. And for years I had been developing sores on my ankles. There was patches of dark skin and some sores that were uh, the skin was like wet, and it wasn't good news. And in 2019, before I started this challenge, I had experimented with doing some water fasting, and I had water fasted for 30 days, and a lot of the swelling went down and the sores like dried up and kind of healed, and it was really awesome. But I didn't have any plan for after the fast on what I was going to do for diet. And pretty quickly after that fast, I gained all the weight back. It took a little bit of time for those sores and the swelling to kind of come back full bore, but it was definitely back. And it wasn't just my right ankle, but my left ankle was starting to get the dark patches around it. And I just knew I needed to do something. I didn't know what I needed to do. I just knew I needed to get something done, and I needed to get going soon. And so I started to think of all the diets I kind of done in the past and what had worked and what hadn't worked. And I developed this challenge that I created. And the kind of overriding component to this challenge was that I needed to create some form of accountability for myself. And that accountability needed to be outside of myself. I would avoid talking to Carrie about diet stuff because I was worried that the second I mentioned that I was interested in starting a diet, that she would get way more excited than I would about it, and I wouldn't be able to match her enthusiasm. And also, relying on your family for accountability can work to a point, but they love me and they don't want to be hounding me about this stuff every day. And so if I started a diet and stuck to it for a week and then decided that I wanted to kind of treat myself, maybe Carrie would have said, "Hey, are you sure you want to do that the first time?" But then week 2 rolls around and I decide to do that twice that week. How many times is she going to keep bugging me before she just kind of lets me do my thing? Because she doesn't want to be a negative influence on me. And so I decided to create this YouTube channel because I wanted to create that accountability outside of myself and outside of my family circle. And I wanted to be accountable to others. And also, I had seen other YouTubers get on and record their weight loss, and I found inspiration in what they were doing. So I kind of hoped that I would be able to not only use my viewers or you guys as an accountability source, but also to inspire you guys to start doing your own thing and losing weight on your own and kind of create a community, I guess. And in the past, so that accountability was the first thing I knew I needed to create. The other thing I knew when I started this was that I needed to set a time goal. And I had done so many diets for 2 weeks or a few months, or yeah, like 9 months, maybe the longest I ever stuck to like a rigid diet or did that for that long. And I'd never done anything for over a year. And none of the things I ever did long enough to really develop healthy habits. And so that's why I decided to challenge myself to be accountable and to do this for 3 years. That's 1,095 days. I figured I used to have a wrestling coach years ago that we would go to a camp, and this this old guy would get up on stage and he would talk about practicing and doing these moves and learning the technique. And he would always say, you got to do it 1,000 times. You got to do things 1,000 times. You got to get it back of the brain stem 1,000 times. And it stuck with me, you know? And so for 3 years, if I do this every day for 3 years, that's over 1,000 days. And I figured that that's enough time to develop that habit to get it stuck in the back of my brain stem. And, 3 years I also figured was a lot of time, and I knew I had a lot of weight to lose. So I figured that I'd be able to get to the goal weight and even maybe spend some time maintaining, that loss. Uh Also, again, like with the YouTubers I had been following or seeing, I was really disappointed a lot of times when I would find a video or I would find somebody on YouTube that created a channel and was doing great for a couple weeks or a month, or especially with the fasting. There's a few guys out there that if you type in fasting or extended water fasting, you'll find some videos, and they people that made the video stayed up to date with things for a while, but then they fall off the face of the earth and you don't know how they're doing. And so I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to leave anyone hanging at the end of this, or, just, to do a video on a Tuesday and then never post again. I mean, how many times can you find that on YouTube? I bet it's more times than you can find people that are continuing to daily vlog things. And so I decided that I needed that commitment, and I needed to set a time so that my anybody that followed me would have some expectation too, And I don't know what's going to happen on October 31st of 2023, but I do know that I'm going to update and I'm going to continue to work towards my goals until that time. And with, that in mind, my goal with this channel is to create a complete story, what my 3-year challenge looks like. And if I'm having success or I feel like going on after 3 years, I may, but I want to be able to say, this is the start of it and this is the end of it. And the middle of it is the book. Um, and so that's why I committed to 3 years. And probably the goal that everyone's the most excited about is my goal to lose 300 pounds. With a starting weight of 519.8 pounds, losing over half my body weight seemed impossible. And that's why in the past, I only would challenge myself to maybe lose 50 pounds, or, hey, I need to get under whatever 50-pound mark. I need to get under 350 pounds, or I need to get under 300 pounds. I would just set goals that seemed realistic. Uh, but I always thought that they were attainable goals, and many times I would. Like, I would create a realistic goal and I would hit that realistic goal. It's just that the things I was doing was to the things I was doing to get to those goal weights, they weren't maintainable things. They were super low calorie. It was eating less than 1,000 calories a day, or only eating certain things. And they just weren't diets that you can be on for the rest of your life. They were only diets that you can be on while you're trying to lose weight. And with those diets, I would hit those goals, and sometimes it wasn't a weight goal. Sometimes it was there's a wedding coming up, and the thing would happen. The wedding would happen, or I would hit that goal, and things were awesome, but I was still overweight. For example, if I would have set a goal to lose half my body weight when I started this, so starting at 520 pounds, half my body weight would have been a goal of 260. Everybody would have applauded that goal. Everybody would have said, "Hey, that's a great goal. It's a goal that's achievable." And it is. But at 260 pounds, I would still be overweight. And my goal isn't to go from morbidly obese to overweight. My goal is to go from morbidly obese to a healthy weight. And I know that losing the 300 pounds is going to get me down to 220. For some people, that's maybe still overweight, but I don't know what I'm going to look like at 220 pounds. And when I get to 220, maybe I'll be like, hey, let's just kick out these last 20 pounds and get down into the 100s. That would be amazing. But I going to do the 300 pounds first, then we'll worry about hitting 320 pounds. The other goal I had with this challenge was that I wanted to lose the weight with my diet. I don't want to spend hours and hours at the gym every day. And even after hitting my goal weight, having to spend 2 hours to 4 hours in the gym every day. It's not what I want to be doing. I have a lot of things going on. I have a wife and 4 kids, and they have their things. And it's just a lot to say, hey, I'm going to do all of my life things and I'm going to work out twice a day, or I'm going to be at the gym for a couple hours a day. Um, and I know that people watching these videos are busy too. You have things going on. You don't want to be having to go to the gym for hours on end either. And for years, I truly have believed that health is gained at the dinner table and fitness is gained. And I'm looking for health. Maybe when I get down to my healthy weight, I can start worrying about the fitness more. But right now, my goal is health. The last kind of thing that was part of this challenge, and it might have been a bit of an afterthought at the time, but when I started on November 1st, all I knew was that I was going to do a water fast and I was going to do it for 30 days. Then the other thing I knew was that I needed to find out what I was going to do after the water fast. So when I started my water fast, I had made a commitment to just researching and figuring out what my plan was for the end of the water fast. And that really actually turned into this whole like continuing education that I've begun doing. I intended to learn about my diet or figure out what I was going to do in those first 30 days and then put it into practice. I didn't intend to have listened to 12 different books by different authors and to watch all these documentaries and do all this research into this way of eating. That was never my goal when I started this, but it has been a huge reason why I have succeeded. It's been a huge driver in helping me continue to stay on this path. So those are kind of the things that I used, or kind of my mindset when I created and developed the challenge. And like I said, I started with the 30-day fast. And the reason why I started with a 30-day fast was because I knew it was going to be the quickest way for me to get started with the weight loss, at least. I know it's not maintainable, and I knew it wasn't something that was going to be maintainable throughout the whole process, but I wanted to get pounds off quick, and I had experience with water fasting in the past. So I thought that there was no easier way and no faster way for me to do this. Um, and I knew that no matter what diet choice that I was going to make after this, that fasting was going to be the fastest way for me to get some pounds off. So I challenged myself to the 30 days. And from November 1st, 2022 to December 1st, I'm sorry, The goal was to go from November 1st, 2020 to December 1st, 2020. And things were going very similar to the way things were going in the past. Uh, but like I said, one of the things that I committed to this time that I hadn't done in the past was finding the best diet for me. Hey, Carrie, I hope everything's going great today. So I started researching things on the internet and I searched for a couple weeks. And, I was trying to find a way to get as far away from the standard American diet as I could. I knew that the fast food I was eating was killing me. And I knew that the processed foods and the sugar and the candy were all things that I needed to get away from. And so I was doing a lot of research, and that's when I came across some videos from some patients that were staying at the True North Clinic in California. And if you don't know what the True North Clinic is, because I didn't know what it was, is that it is a fasting facility that they specialize in long term water fasting that's medically supervised. So they have patients come to their facility, they put them on these water only fasting regimens, and they test all of these things every day to make sure that everybody is safe. And I thought it was really cool that there was this facility that specialized in long-term water fasting. What really blew my mind was that I had been doing a bunch of stuff with water fasting for a year and a half, and I hadn't even really heard of them before. So I started looking into some videos that were posted online, and I found some testimonials from some patients that it really resonated with me. Like the things that these patients were saying about their fasting experience were mirrors of the things I was feeling at the time. So uh, I was really interested in finding out more about this facility. And the other thing that I was really interested about was finding out what to eat after I finished my fast, because you hear really some there's doing a long-term water fast can be very dangerous. And so what I was doing was pretty dangerous. And I was really concerned about what I was going to refeed with. Hey Anthony, no worries. It's great to have you in here. I'm just kind of going over the last 500 days or this challenge. Um so I was really concerned about refeeding, because if you don't do it right, you can put yourself in the hospital, you can really damage your body. And I had pushed myself to a point where that refeeding was important. So I was like, well, these people specialize in extended water only fasting. So I should look at and see what they're recommending to their patients. And I was like, "What? This is crazy." They're recommending that these people eat a plant-based diet with no added salt, oil, or sugar. And the first thought in my head is, clearly these people are mad. Why, but after a while, in a while, probably not very long, but just thinking about it though, is that why would a place that is specializing in extended water fasting recommend this diet? Because they're already doing something that is looked down upon by everybody around. They had stories I've read since then that they had the cops sent to their facility because people thought that they were some sort of cult because they were doing water fasting. And why would they put an even bigger target on their back by recommending this whole food plant based SOS free diet if there wasn't something to it? And the other thing was is that it was really intriguing to me because I was looking for a diet that was very different from the standard American diet, and this diet was very different from the standard American. This diet was very different from any diet I had ever heard of before. Like, I had heard of people being vegan. I didn't understand what a whole food plant-based diet was. And even at that, you could know what a whole food plant-based diet is, but then a lot of people go one step further and they eliminate the oil, which is kind of the first thing that goes when you eat a whole food plant-based diet is the oil. But then, and it's easy to convince people to give up sugar, but that salt was just kind of crazy. So I decided to pick up the book that was written by the doctors from the clinic. It's called The Pleasure Trap. It's written by Dr. Doug Lisle and Dr. Alan Goldhamer. And I continued on with my water fast, and I was listening to this book at the same time and doing research into what they're doing at that facility, or the best you can kind of do on YouTube and the internet for research. And I ended up pushing myself on my water fast because of what I was kind of seeing from this clinic. And I went more than the 30 days. I ended up fasting for 1,000 hours, which is right around 42 days. Um, and after doing that research, kind of the last 15 days of the water fast, I broke my water fast and I began my whole food plant based diet. And during the water fast, I was able to lose 90 pounds, which is just amazing. So I went from 520 pounds to 430 pounds. But really, that was awesome. Absolutely incredible. But for me, what was even more incredible was that 10 days after my water fast, I'd lost an additional 10 pounds. I'd gotten to a point where I was at over 100 pounds lost. I didn't gain any of the weight back from the water fast. And it seemed like that was inevitable, that I would fast and I would lose a bunch of weight and then I would refeed and I would gain a little bit of weight back. And it didn't happen. And so it just kind of really cemented in me that maybe I was onto something. And so we kept at the diet for a few weeks. And I admit that at the beginning of the diet, a lot of these foods were a bit bland to me. They weren't my favorite things in the world. But after a couple weeks, the flavors really started to kick in and I really started to enjoy the foods. I found that I never craved any animal products at all during this process. I mean, well, during the fast, I would have to say I craved lots of things, and animal products were probably in that list. But after the fast, once I started to refeed, I never had any craving for any animal products, and I was feeling amazing. And so from mid-December to July, I was 100% on whole food plant based, SOS free, and things were going awesome. I was able to lose an additional 100 pounds, and it brought my total weight loss from, uh, and it brought my total weight loss to right at about 200 pounds of the 300-pound goal I had. And I was only 9 months in at that point. And it was also during the same time I was feeling really good. I quit using my CPAP machine because it was being more of a hindrance to my sleep than it was helping me at that point. And I still don't use a CPAP to this day, which is just wild because from 2007 until now, almost the whole time I was on a CPAP machine. And while I said I didn't want to lose the weight at the gym, and I didn't really lose much weight during this period, I did have an urge to challenge myself physically. So in mid July, I competed in what's called a sprint triathlon. And what a triathlon is a swim, bike, and run event. So you swim for a distance, you bike for a distance, and then you run for a distance. A sprint triathlon is kind of a very short version of that race. So I ended up doing a 400-meter swim, a 15-mile bike ride, and a 5K run walk. And it was awesome. It was an incredible experience. I'm so happy that I was able to complete the triathlon. It was something I only gave myself about 6 weeks to prepare for it. So I wasn't sure how I was going to do, but I was able to complete it. I may have been the last person to cross the finish line, but I did cross the finish line just the same as everybody else. So that was an awesome experience. And I'm so glad that I did that. But then tragedy struck the Thursday after I did the triathlon. I got injured and I ended up tearing my distal bicep tendon. So I don't know if show it on the screen or not. It probably won't show up, but I have a scar right here. Distal bicep tendon is the tendon that attaches your bicep to your forearm. And I tore that just a few days after I did the triathlon. And it really kind of messed things up for me. A little bit, in the past, an injury like that probably would have meant the end of the road for any diet that I was on. I would have had a pity party. Woe is me. I deserve this. I've been doing great anyways. It doesn't matter. And I was able to get through the surgery. And in the past 6 months, I've been kind of able to maintain that weight loss. I did gain a little bit shortly after the surgery. We had a few other events that happened and some traveling where I had allowed some salt, oil, and sugar into my diet. It was still it was still plant based, but I got sidetracked a little bit. Um, but now I've been able to, get back on track and stick to it. And it's because this diet is maintainable. In the past, when I would have something that would derail me, I wouldn't want to go back to that old diet because it wasn't sustainable. I was barely holding on in the first place. And that event was probably what I needed to get me out of those diets. Whereas this time, I was able to stick to my diet and get back to it fairly easily. And and so, like I said, in the past 6 months, I've been able to maintain that 200-pound weight loss, which has been really incredible for me because in the past, that would have been the end of my diet. And like I said, I had allowed some salt, oil, and sugar into my diet, but I've cut them back out. I went from my lowest rate weight was right at 310 pounds, so just under what I'm at today. But the uh the highest I got was 336. So I gained about 26 pounds after tearing my distal bicep tendon. And now I've been able to lose that 24 of those 26 pounds so far. Um, I am 500 days into my challenge. I've lost over 200 pounds. I have 20 months left to go, or 595 days to go to get to my my goal and maintain it. It has uh been awesome this whole time. I mean, just to continue to have successes this far in. I mean, so starting in January of 2022, I kind of recommitted back into my whole food plant based SOS free diet. I had enough of a pity party, I guess, for using uh with the after my torn bicep tendon, and I have been able to lose 20 pounds in the last 2 months. And if I can continue to lose 10 pounds a month for the next 10 months, I'd be pretty happy at that. So um it's just been quite the been quite the road so far. So Anthony's sitting here saying, "Congrats! I didn't know you were on a CPAP machine." Yes, I was on a CPAP machine. I had really bad sleep apnea. I've talked about it in the past, I guess. But when I went to the doctor to get a sleep study done for my snoring, that's why I went. I was snoring and I was tired all the time. And so I went and they said, "Hey, we're gonna have you do a 2 night sleep study. You come in the first night, we measure and see if you do need to have a CPAP machine, and then we'll have you come in and do a second night so that we can get the equipment on you and we can find out what the machine needs to be set at." So I got to the place and went to bed probably between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. The technician woke me up by midnight and said, "Sir, you absolutely have sleep apnea. And we are just going to go ahead and switch over to the equipment so we can find out what you need because having you there's no point in us monitoring your sleep anymore tonight. And that we should get something done or we should get figured out what you need to have because my CPAP machine at the time, I don't know how they are set now, but the maximum that they could set a CPAP machine was at 20 psi, and I had mine set at 18 psi. I feel like maybe they had it set at 18 just because they wanted room to go up, is what I would guess. Because all of the numbers that I got, and this is 2007, so this is 15 years ago, but I had done some research on at the time, like looking up forums and trying to see other people's experience with sleep apnea. And there was a lot of people sharing their results from their tests, and all of my results were far worse than any result that anybody else was sharing. And so that created a really nerve-wracking 2 weeks for me because it wasn't immediate that I got in my machine. Like I was told, "Hey, you have sleep apnea and we're going to get you this machine and get this all set up," which was great. But then I go to the internet and I start looking at these stories of people who had loved ones that died from strokes in the middle of the night and just a lot of horror stories. And they were talking about those people's numbers and mine was so I had really bad sleep apnea. Um, all of my roommates hated living with me when I was in college, just because I snored so badly. And to now be in a position where I don't snore, it's really wild. Like I would almost have to have conversations with some of my friends from that time period uh and be like, "Can you imagine I don't snore anymore?" And they wouldn't believe it because I was always sawing logs. Um, so yeah. So, anyways, the 500 days into the challenge, I am just as committed to getting to my goal as I was on day one. It has been a little bit of a bumpy road, but it has been worth every single bump on that road. I I can't stress enough that my intention when I started this was not in eating a whole food plant based SOS free diet. I I didn't even know what it was. My brother was a vegan. That was the closest experience I had to that. And he had only been eating that way for about a year when I started this challenge. So and uh it wasn't necessarily he doesn't eat a whole food plant-based diet. He just eliminated animal products from his diet. So I didn't really have any clue that that's where I was going to be today. And now I can't imagine eating another way. Just don't think that I could. And the last 2 weeks, I've lost 2.8 pounds each week. I don't know how many people 480 plus days into their weight loss challenge are still losing 2 pounds a week. But um, the other thing is that I really have to celebrate is the fact that I made it to 500 days. I mean, 30 days I've done, 60 days, 3 months, 6 months. I've I've held on to a diet, or I've committed for that long. 9 months, I think, is the longest I would say. And even at that 9 month mark, I was, um, I only made it to 9 months because I was taking a phentermine prescription, and I was seeing this doctor, and it was immediate after I quit that prescription, because they couldn't keep me on it any longer, that my diet went downhill. So for me, I'm so happy that 500 days in, I can say that I'm doing this all myself too. I'm not relying on any protein shakes. I'm not relying on any pills. Like I said, it's not a a meal replacement program. It's not something where I'm ordering and having boxes of food delivered to my house. This is 100% been a diet that you can just go to the grocery store and just buy what you want to eat. And that was not the case on a lot of my other diets. It would be a lot of low carb, lots of meat diets. I was the keto king there for a while, probably. Um, I never got into the keto, uh, other than with fasting and getting into ketosis with fasting. But for me, it was the Atkins diets and the Advocare with the pills. I took that for a long time, or I did that years and years ago. That was back in like 2002. That's like 20 years ago. I've been dealing with this for over 20 years. Um, and I am just so happy with where I'm at. I'm excited to get on the scale tomorrow. I'm going to do my official 500-day weigh-in tomorrow. If I could get back down to my lightest, I mean, that would be awesome. But I uh, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Depends on tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to get out of here today, guys. I really appreciate all of the support. I appreciate all of you who followed along with this so far, and I'm looking forward to completing the 3-year challenge and showing you guys how to do it, and that it can be done. That's the biggest thing. I want to prove that you can go from 520 pounds to 220 pounds without any special gimmicks, special pills, going and getting surgery, any of that stuff. I want to do it with the food. It's about the food, guys. It's all about the food. The calorie density, it's the everything I've been just talking about for the last few months. So again, I appreciate everybody that has been following along. I will thank you, Anthony. Yes. I will be on tomorrow for weigh in Wednesday. If you guys haven't started your diet yet, get started right now. And if you fell off your diet, pick up the pieces, put them back on the chessboard. Don't clear the board. Say, hey, I learned from the last game. I'm going to beat you this time. Keep playing, keep pushing your diet. No gastric bypass. I would really, yeah, that was kind of me starting this whole challenge, was my kind of, I got to do something because that's the next thing. I did not want to do a gastric bypass, but in my head, I've known since I was 18 years old that I could probably walk into any doctor's office, say, hey, I'm interested in getting a gastric bypass. What do I have to do? And the doctors would say, hey, we need you to do this for 30 days, or we need you to do that. And I would have jumped through all of the hoops. I would have got it done, but I didn't want to do that. So if you guys haven't started your diet, get started right now. There's no reason to wait. I know St. Patty's Day is in 2 days, and you want to go and have that corned beef and cabbage and that green beer and all that fun stuff. Well, that stuff is not worth it. And let's say you start your diet on the 18th. Fast forward 364 days, and it's March 17th, 2023. Are you going to go off your diet so you can go have that green beer and that corned beef and cabbage? Or are you going to be sitting there going, I'm a year in, kicking butt, I'm not quitting? So Shamrock beer, right? Um, Shamrock shakes. Oh my gosh. I haven't thought about those for a while. Goodness. Um, So it's not worth it. The Shamrock Shake is not worth it. So get started with your diet right now, guys. And don't fall for the myths of moderation. There's two of them. The myth of moderate consumption. The idea that, I'm just going to eat half a portion. I'm only going to have half of what's there. You can do that for a while. I'm just going to cut back. I'm just going to eat, half as much, but your body won't let you do it forever. And the second something stressful happens or something that is unexpected happens, you let the diet go. You let go of that. I'm going to just be moderate. And you're like, well, I will have the full portion today because I was moderate for the last 2 weeks. And it doesn't last. The other is the myth of moderate change. I know it's hard to wrap your head around completely changing your diet, but that was one of my big things with this, is that I wanted to get as far away from the standard American diet as I could. But I knew I had to completely change my diet. Sitting there and saying that, I will have a salad before I have my regular dinner. And then by having the salad means I'll eat less regular dinner. It doesn't work that way. You stuff your salad, you eat a small little bitty salad, just a little bitty cup of salad. Ooh, I had my salad. And then you're like, all right, let's go for the main course. Give me that big old bowl of crap. So yes, stress is very no bueno. Yes, that is something that is tough to deal with. And it's amazing how connected stress and food end up being for. So very no bueno. So get started now. Don't fall for the myths of moderate consumption, the myth of moderate change. I will see you guys tomorrow. And hopefully it's with a smile on my face. What Carrie say here? Day 500. Got to pop up on the screen. I can't read it up. Just waiting for Carrie's comment. Only reason why we're still here. 500. So proud of me. There we go. It was worth it. It was worth the wait. All right, guys. I appreciate all of you guys. I will be on tomorrow.